What up, Nation? WiseTake Nation, CK here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, breaking down week 6. Appreciate you guys for joining me, hanging out with me, doing dirties. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. Doing this weekly for the rest of the season. And I'm hyper focused because my Mets is eliminated, so take that for what it is. Week 6 is pretty crazy, man. We got some injuries. We got some value running backs. It's going to be contrarian, I think, to pay up at running back, but that hasn't exactly been a winning trend or winning success, winning formula for success, I mean. So it's an interesting one, man. I actually like it. To me, there's really like, I think a lot of the ownership will hover around a couple games. Game that I like, I think everybody is going to like. There's key pieces everywhere. We got 2 bad defenses. And, you know, I think it's going to be pretty wild. So, let's go ahead and get into the slate. Do what we do. Start off with some QBs. Pull it up. All right, quarterbacks. So, listen, I'm just going to talk about the guys I actually plan. Right? I think that's there, right? Josh Allen, number 1. Right? Coming off a monster game against Pittsburgh, we talked about that, right? About how people maybe wouldn't play him as much as they should have because of the spread. Well, they dominated. He actually didn't even finish the whole. He didn't need to because the way they dominated was by him dominating. Upside's massive. Had 1 game under 30. Just feels safe. I think Buffalo wins this game. I'm a big Chiefs guy. I almost always bet on whenever the Chiefs are losing. I almost always go and bet them to win. I believe in him. I think Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. I like him. But that being said, I think the Bills maybe need this game a little bit more. They're coming off a game where their starters didn't even have to play the whole game. They played Pittsburgh, who's been a little weak this year, obviously. Meanwhile, Monday Night Football, the Chiefs are playing on short rest coming up Monday Night Football in a grueling game against a division rival. Right? If you listen to Travis Kelce got a podcast now with his brother from the Eagles. And he even talked about how when you play a division rival like that, a lot of the times you're sore the next week. So they're on short rest, coming off that tough game like that. Not to mention, the last time these guys met, the Chiefs won. And Buffalo played their ass off. That was the Gabriel Davis eruption, all that. So it's a revenge spot for the Bills. I think the Bills win. I'm going to put that out there. That being said, I like Allen this week, obviously. Kansas City's defense just has not been very good this year. The Bills' defense is legitimately good. The Bills' defense, granted, we're talking about Patrick Mahomes, so we'll throw that out the window. But another reason I think they have the edge. Bills are 6th in DVOA against the pass, 3rd against the run. We look at Kansas City, find them on his list right quick. 8th against the run, 19th against the pass. So they kind of play perfectly into the Bills, right? That being said, it don't mean everything, right? I think the Chiefs are a good team to keep it competitive, but I do like Allen. The question is, do you need Diggs or do you get up to Diggs? Diggs' ceiling has been tremendous. Look at Tennessee, 47. That's just crazy. But he's had a couple games where he's not really paying off the salary and you're a little disappointed. I guess it depends on game flow. I kind of like the idea if you do play Allen to save some money and to be different. Maybe look at guys like McKenzie. Maybe look at guys like obviously Gabriel Davis, who I think Davis may end up being the most popular from this team given his last performance. But we'll have to see. But Allen, obviously, he's going to be a QB. I get some. Lamar Jackson, I think, is kind of interesting. 2 games where he didn't really perform playing the Giants. I think that ownership-wise, because of where he is, in this pecking order, the Giants game not nearly as flashy. The Giants are 24th against the pass, 21st against the run. Their defense is not good. The question is their offense legitimate enough to keep up with the Ravens? And they got Saquon Barkley. I think that helps. Baltimore's defense has been suspect all year. 10th against the pass, 26th against the run. So it kind of does set up for them to stay in the game if they feed Saquon, which I mean that should be part of their plan. So I think Lamar could be kind of sneaky, but I don't know if I have enough teams this week to reach him. I'll have a Mahomes team just because I pretty much I've learned to kind of always have a Mahomes team. The ceiling is still strong. You saw what he did against Arizona, a game that really wasn't close. Even against Las Vegas, he got there. It hasn't been as high as Allen's, and his floor has been definitely lower than Allen's. I think this game's competitive, and if Kansas City's even going to keep this close, it's going to have to be, I think, on the back of Patty Mahomes. I do think CEH is an interesting pair with Patty Mahomes, or even as, like, if you're playing an Allen team, an interesting bringback, because I could see him getting pass work. I could see him getting in the end zone and short yardage situations, maybe even getting some pass work out the backfield. But Mahomes is there. The thing is to do Mahomes, like, you got Kelsey, but then who? Could go CEH. I think Valdez-Scantling is getting a lot of looks. Juju has been kind of a disappointment, but it could be him. That's the problem with you got Mahomes, with no Tyreek Hill here. That second option is kind of wide open. Kyler Murray is one of my favorite quarterbacks on the slate. Ownership-wise, he's not projecting well. The volume is ridiculous. I mean, this dude is running. He's throwing the ball. I mean, he's had 2 games where he's thrown less than 40 times. Seattle's offense has been potent. They've been good. But Seattle's defense has been atrocious. 31st against the pass, 24th against the run. Now, there is a play. Obviously, the cover boy, Benjamin, we'll talk about him, is supposed to be getting some extra run this week. So that's interesting. But you could always throw him in the stack as well, especially because he's so cheap. But I think Kyler Murray is kind of getting overlooked in that game a little bit. The bring back options I love, and Lockett, Metcalf, Kenneth Walker. So I think it's a really good game. It's my favorite game on the slate. I'm sure it's a lot of people's, but I think a lot of people are more so going to Geno. And I like Geno too. We'll talk about him next. But I think a lot of people are going to go either high up to Allen and Mahomes and those guys, or they're going to go down to the Geno Smith range. So I do think it's an interesting spot nonetheless. I'll talk about Tom Brady for a second. Right? Look at the volume here. 52 passes against Atlanta, 52 against Kansas City, 42 against Green Bay. I mean, the only game he didn't throw a ton was against Dallas, where they won that pretty handily from start to finish because Dak Prescott got hurt, right? We just saw what the Josh Allen did to these guys. The only difference is the Bills don't run the ball well. The Bucs run the ball pretty decent, so it's a little bit of a different situation. I could see Fournette getting that run. Singletary just wasn't getting it done, right? So something to consider. And obviously Geno Smith. Mr. Geno. What do you say about Geno, man? First 2 weeks looked like regular Geno Smith. After that, he's been a fantasy beast. I mean, granted, he did play 2 games in like awesome conditions. He played in Detroit in their dome, played in New Orleans in their dome. But for the price, he's still very, very cheap for the output he's got. You know where the ball is going. It's DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, makes for an easy double stack. So yeah, I'm good with Geno. Again, I like the bringbacks on the other side too, between Ertz, Benjamin. So there's a lot. Benjamin and Kenneth Walker are 2 backup running backs that are going to be playing as starters with the guys in front of them out. And you got 2 bad defenses, right? I don't think Arizona's games haven't been great overall, but the volume's been there. It's just kind of been, I think, a little bit of variance and a little bit of them just not being very good. I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan in real life. I just think in fantasy, he's all right. Arizona 12th against the run DVOA, but 27th against the pass currently. So definitely some upside here for the pass game of these guys. The only problem is, like I said, I think it's gonna be owned. And that's something that we're just gonna have to deal with. That it is what it is. It's gonna be owned. We'll move on to running backs. So again, I think all these guys up top. McCaffrey's only 8-3. PJ Walker's starting. The problem is ceiling. These expensive guys haven't shown ceiling, and we've had cheap guys matching them every. Not that they're doing bad. It's not that McCaffrey's been doing terrible. If you look at his results, and his price is going down because he's not hitting that ceiling. It just seems like the trend this year, and even even Paulie was saying it last year. Like it just seemed like the game is moving towards receivers and the pass game having the most upside. So you don't see a ton of bell cow. Even McCaffrey, he's getting looks, and against San Francisco, 14 carries, 12 targets. That's like we're getting close to old McCaffrey, but Still not the same kind of usage. Just talks about him potentially being traded. It's wild. Nick Chubb has been really consistent. He's the one spend up that I do think could be worth grabbing in tournaments. I don't know if I'll get there, but I want to. New England's defense has not been good this year, specifically against the run. They're actually 8th against the pass DVOA, 28th against the run. Now, you know Belichick likes to take out the top options, and obviously that's got to be Chubb, but it's going to be tough, man. He's at home. It's going to be tough to take him out. He's at home. I mean, you don't think every team has tried to stop the run against the Browns? You don't think every team knows, like, it's Brissett at quarterback, let's stop the run? They can't do it. He's just that good. Jonathan Taylor practiced twice this week, both limited. We'll have to see if he even plays or not, but he was limited in both appearances against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense, don't sleep on them. They've actually been pretty good this season. And I think if Taylor is out, I'll probably get some more exposure to them, at least on Draftkings, where they are like 3K. 9th against the run, 9th against the pass DVOA. Don't sleep on the Jags defense, man. That's a big reason as to why they've been able to hang around these games. But I honestly, I don't know if Taylor plays, and if he doesn't play, let me keep an eye on Marlon Mack, because Marlon Mack, what am I talking about Marlon Mack? Nyheim Hines. Nyheim Hines had this opportunity when Taylor missed last week. Got a concussion literally right away. But he just got cleared. He's in like the 5th stage or something like that. He got cleared for contact Friday. I think he has one more phase he has to pass, but he could end up playing. He could end up being like a late guy, a guy that gets ownership late if Taylor does get ruled out. So a situation to keep an eye on for sure. But these guys, I think Fournette kind of stands out against Pittsburgh. We talked about that they can run the ball. They will run the ball. After that, we got to talk about the guys down here. So Ramondre Stevenson. He's going to be popular against Detroit. Detroit's defense is terrible, right? Well, so is Cleveland's. If we take a look at Cleveland's defense this year, they're dead last against the run in DVOA. 32nd against the run. They are 16th against the pass, but 32nd against the run DVOA. So we're expecting the Patriots to run it. And, yeah, that's basically it. We expect them to run the ball hard. So expect him to be popular, but again, hard to get off him. After that, it's like a bunch of cheap dudes. Talked about Hines. Kenneth Walker will get some love, and rightfully so. We know Penny's out, done for the season, so this is their rookie. We're expecting him to get some work. 8 carries in the last 2 games. In the beginning of the season, had some targets. I prefer Eno in this game. On the other side, I prefer Eno, to be honest with you, especially with the weapons that Seattle has in the pass game. But, gotta mention them. I'll probably have Walker and like a Kyler Murray where I didn't want to play Dick McGillicuddy. And Damian Harris is listed as questionable. Practice limited capacity Thursday and Friday. So we're expecting him to miss. He was expected to miss some games, just to be clear. But I'm expecting him to miss, despite the reports. Darrell Henderson just rose up the charts. The lead back, Cam Akers out for personal. Not going to get into that, not really sure. But, this is Henderson's show. He had 5 targets in his last game. 5 targets first game of the season 4. So we get some pass work. Now he's going to get all the rushing carries. They're at home, looking for a bounce back win against Carolina, who has struggled this season, obviously. So, Henderson at 5-1 looks like a phenomenal value play. And then there's, of course, I thought we were going to have Chase Edmonds. I don't think we will. I think that Mostert, is it Mostert? Yeah, I think Mostert that did get ruled in. Or he didn't get ruled in officially, but I think word on the street he's probably going to play. Eno Benjamin, cover boy. What's not to like? Connor is expected. I think Connor's already ruled out, right? And Darrell Williams. So James Conner and Darrell Williams is ruled out. So they got their rookie 6th-round pick, Keontae Ingram, to be active. But I don't see how Eno doesn't handle the majority of the workload here. In the last game against Philly, 4 targets, ended up getting a rushing touchdown. Conner did get hurt in that game again. And on top of that, we talked about Seattle's defense. They're significant. They're bad on pass and run. But, Eno Benjamin, 4,600. He's like 6'3" on FanDuel, a little more expensive there. Whereas Henderson is 5'7", but on DraftKings, man, 4,600 is crazy cheap for a guy that, like I guess he's gotten 4. He's already been that pass game guy. He's gotten 4 targets in every game but 1 this year. Phenomenal spot for Eno. I'll have a lot of them. He'll be chalky. I don't care. I'll get different elsewhere. Cooper Kupp, questionable, but I think everybody expects him to play. He's been awesome. This is exactly what we mean. These scores you're seeing on a consistent basis are what we're used to seeing, like back in the day, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, like those when you were just paying up for running backs every week. You're seeing that now for the receivers. So I feel like we have to try to find a way to get as many of these guys as we can. Justin Jefferson, look at this guy's scores. The floor is a little bit lower at times, but look at the ceiling. It's massive. And on top of that, he is playing Miami, who so far this season is dead last in DVOA against the pass. Worse than Seattle and Detroit. Just think about that for a second. Worse than Seattle and Detroit. So yeah, I think that this is a very good spot for Jefferson. That's kind of why I like the idea of paying down on that Bills game. Because if I have an opportunity to pay up for a guy like him, I'd rather do that. I think Debo is an interesting play. Atlanta's not good against the run. Debo hasn't been as involved in the run, but we know he's got that ability, and the targets have been there. It's just a matter of connecting. But I think Debo, especially you put him in the dome, I think it's a really good sneaky spot for him. Metcalf. Here's the range here. Metcalf, Gabe Davis, which on FanDuel, Lockett is actually $100 more expensive than Metcalf. That's kind of crazy. I'm gonna have a lot of these guys. Metcalf, Lockett. I've been sitting in that game. I think that Gabe Davis is gonna get a lot of love. Just so happens he just erupted last week on just 3 catches, 171 yards, 2 tutties, 35 fantasy points. And now he's playing the team that he scored career high numbers against last year in the playoffs, with 4 touchdowns in 1 game. So that's going to be pretty crazy. Adam Thielen, I think, is kind of sneaky. We just talked about how Jefferson, how Miami's dead last against the pass. Look at the targets, man. Other than week 1, 7, 8, 9, 7. We know this guy's got upside. 5'9" just seems really cheap for him. Especially if the defense does try to do what they can to slow down Jefferson. Then obviously you would think that's a good thing for Thielen. So I think Thielen is very interesting. I think Christian Kirk is worth noting. Against Houston, only 3 targets. Before that, 9, 9, 6, 12. Has posted up really solid scores. And his coach, when they asked his coach about the fact that he hasn't gotten a lot of love in the last game, the coach straight up said he needs to be between 9 and 12 targets a game. So I think they'll look to get right, and they'll look to get him the ball. Lockett will be popular on Draftkings, but rightfully so. We saw massive upside. The targets have been there. He's cheap. For whatever reason, like I said on FanDuel, he's $100 more than Metcalf. On DraftKings, he's significantly less than Metcalf. That's just crazy. See, Lockett is just a phenomenal play this week, no doubt. This doesn't apply to this week, but I think D-Hop is supposed to be back next week. I think it's the last week D-Hop suspended, so keep an eye on that for next week. McKenzie could be an interesting, cheap way to get exposure to the Bills out of that slot. Crowder's out, so there's no competition anymore there. I think Elijah Moore could be kind of sneaky too. We expect the Jets to be trailing in this game. Targets haven't been there, but he does execute a lot well out of the slot. In the Green Bay, that's kind of where they struggled a little bit so far this season. They've been exposed a little bit. I think Valdez-Scantling is an interesting value play. He hasn't shown the ceiling, but we know it's there. We know he's a deep ball kind of guy. Against Vegas, they got him going with 8 targets. If you look, Tampa Bay only 5, Arizona only 4. But 7, 7, and 8. 3 out of the 5 games he's had 7 or more. So I think that could be interesting for value just to get exposure to that game. And then I like everyone else will like him too. But Rondale Moore did all right for us last week. He was in the core, didn't do as well as I'd hoped. But still, 7 catches, 8 targets. This is another one where it's kind of his last chance to really get involved. Because once you got D-Hop back, you're looking at D-Hop, Marquise Brown, Ertz. Those will be the top 3 targets at that point. But I think Rondale Moore is still 4,200. Very interesting on both sides for value. Tight end. Kelsey, obviously, if you're in that game, go for it. Andrews, these top 3 guys are all phenomenal. Andrews against the Giants. George Kittle's only 5-1. I know the results haven't been there, but we expect him to get going at some point. I think George Kittle is way too cheap. I like Ertz. What's not to like? Look at these targets. Double-digit targets, 3 out of the 5 games. Double-digit fantasy points in all 5 games. And Seattle's been terrible against tight ends. They've been getting diced up by tight ends. So I really, really like Zach Ertz this week. He's probably my favorite tight end overall. I don't think that'll really change. I am going to work in some Kelsey, obviously, and we'll see who else that I need on the Bills. But I do like Ertz a lot this week. Kyle Pitts, if you dare, it's questionable. But Njoku continues to be a steady force in his pass game, man. We know Brissett likes to throw to tight ends. He always has. And you can see here, 5'10", 7'6", just getting jiggy with it. So You know. I like it. So I'm not really going too far down. All right, there's guys you can consider here. I'm not really going too far down. That's pretty much where I'm at. I'm gonna have a lot of Ertz. I can tell you that right now. And that's pretty much it. I mean, defense to defense. Let's talk about that. I'll have my article ready by tomorrow night or Sunday morning. Just waiting on some injury news to finalize some things. But I have a pretty clear direction, I think, of where I'm trying to go. I'd like to make some last minute adjustments, find a couple of like mid-tier receivers to shift in to make builds different. But it should be a fun slate. It should be a real fun slate. I'm looking forward to it. I think ownership could surprise us, and I think some of the late news could surprise us. Sometimes reacting to some of the late news could really set you on the right path. Like if Jonathan Taylor gets ruled out, Hines gets ruled in, or even if Taylor gets ruled in and Hines gets ruled out. Like these are different things to keep an eye on, different ways we can go. But anyway, Nation, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and come check me out. WiseTake.com. My projections are already up. Cheat sheets are already up. And my article, like I said, it'll be out. My core plays article will be out between Saturday night and Sunday mornings. Appreciate y'all, and see you soon.